behind the language experience approach is that you're going to use your students' own vocabulary and language patterns and the experiences to create the original text for reading. You use it, it's just a fun way to help use your students' words to be able to create a story.
Okay, here's what you're going to expect to learn in this topic. So, there are many benefits to using language experience with students. The first thing is, it is so much fun. You just can't believe how much fun. So when students see a story about a personal experience written in their own words, it's both empowering and motivating. As students tell you the story, you write the story down on paper. This immediately helps students make the connection between their oral vocabulary and the same words in print. At the same time, LEA can give you an idea of the student's vocabulary and grammar. LEA can allow students to produce more sophisticated and more interesting work than they'd be able to do for themselves. Even though a student may be reading at a low level, they've been telling stories all their lives, in English for basic literacy students or in their own first language. Finally, LEA works great with new students. This approach provides a new student who has at least a little bit of English with an immediate opportunity to experience success in reading and writing. There's a handout which lists the steps for creating the story and provides several ideas for topics. You'll also find support for this tool in the tutor information booklet.
So how do we do language experience story? The first thing we're going to do is invite our student just to talk. We'll ask the student what they did over the weekend or what they enjoy doing just for fun or something about their childhood. You might use a picture as a prompt or a story that you recently read. You focus the conversation and narrow the topic and ask the student to tell you a story. Then you write down exactly what the student says. You use correct spelling and punctuation, but you don't change any words. It's a good idea to leave blanks between each printed line. That gives you room for making edits later. It also gives the student a chance to make edits as you go through the process. For beginning readers, just a short story of like 3 to 5 sentences is long enough. Of course, an advanced student can be longer. You might also ask your student for a title for their story. The next step is to read the story back to the student and ask if the story says what they wanted to say. Ask the student if there are any changes they want to make and reread the story as many times as you need to be able to get the student satisfied. Then you read the story to the student again from the beginning, tracking the words with your finger while the student watches and listens. Next, you ask the student to read the story. For beginning students, you're going to read just one sentence at a time and then ask the student to read that sentence back to you. You repeat that process until the student is satisfied with the story. Of course, higher level students might be able to read the story right from the very beginning. Finally, you can identify the reading and writing skills that you want to work on in the next lesson with the student. Lastly, you could ask the student to copy the story if they wanted.
Okay, this may sound really complicated to you, but we're going to show you a video of a real tutor and a student using a language experience story. Watch for the steps that we've just discussed.
During a conversation, the tutor and learner discuss the learner's busy day.
Well, Katie, earlier you were telling me about Johnny, and he was sick today, and it sounds like you've had a very busy day today and a lot on your mind. Why don't we write your story down, and then we can use that for our lesson, okay? And maybe, you know, I have a pad here that you could write it down on.
Not anymore. I'm afraid of writing.
No, you're afraid of that
Very
now.
tough
Okay,
to write.
not a problem. No, yeah, that's fine. I'll write it for you, and then we'll look at it afterwards. Okay?
Yes,
How does that
that's
sound?
good
Does that sound like a good
idea.
idea? Okay,
Yeah.
good. Okay, why don't you tell me the story then?
My son Johnny this morning went to school, but in the middle, middle of the school, a school nurse called my husband, like him come.
Okay, Katie, just slow down just a little bit. So in the middle of school, the school nurse called your husband.
Let him come to school, take Johnny to home because he had a fever.
Okay. He had a fever.
Yeah.
Because he had a fever. Okay. Now, what's going to happen tomorrow, do you think? I mean, I know you go to work during the day. What do you think will happen? Okay, well, let me read the story back, and we'll see if there's any changes that you'd like to make. Okay, Katie?
Yes.
Okay.
Good.
Okay. My son Johnny this morning went to school, but in the middle of school, the school nurse called my husband and let him take Johnny to home because he had a fever. Tomorrow, Johnny still need at home.
Excuse me, Dan.
Yeah, sure.
Can I make a change?
Yes, sure. Yeah, where would you like to make a change?
I want to say tomorrow Johnny still need two at home.
Oh,
Is it
okay.
okay?
Okay. No, here, let's look at this again. You want to say tomorrow, Johnny still needs to be at home? Still needs to
stay.
Oh, to stay. Oh, yeah, okay, very good. Let's put in to
To
stay.
stay.
Okay, good. Okay.
To stay at home and
And I will need school? Need
I
call?
want,
Oh, I will
also-
need to call.
Yes,
I will
can
need call
also
school.
change a little.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
I will need to call.
Okay, very good. Yes, we need to put two in there. We need to call school.
School.
Okay. And then Johnny will take one day off. Also, I need to call my boss, take one day off.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, good.
Thank you.
So, let's talk about what we just watched. The tutor
Okay,
nurse.
now it's time for you to read it. Okay? Okay, sure.
My son Johnny this morning went to school, but in the middle of school, the school nurse called my husband and let him take Johnny to home because he had a fever. Tomorrow, Johnny still need to stay at home,
Very good.
and I will need to call
Very good.
my boss. I'm sorry. I need to call school. Johnny will take one day off. Also, I need to call my boss. Take one day off.
Very good. You did that very well. You did that very well. I'm just wondering, though, if there's a line here, and I'm wondering if maybe you'd like to make a change here. We have the school nurse called my husband and let him take Johnny to home because he had a fever. I'm wondering if you'd like to make a change in that sentence there. Do you see anything you'd like to make a change in there?
Oh, you change it.
Would you like to, is there maybe an
Yes.
extra word there maybe you'd like to
Yes,
take
I
out?
like.
Which word would you like to take out?
Take Johnny home.
Yeah, okay, very good. So we're going to
take out the two.
Take out the two. Very good. Yes, that's a good correction. We wouldn't need that there.
Yeah. And let him to take Jianing home.
Because he had a fever. Good.
Because he has fever.
Very good. You did that very well. You did it very well.
Thank you.
Now you're up, Sarah.
Now I'm up. I wanted to rush Katie there. I'm sorry about that. So what did you,
That's
now we're going
okay.
to talk about what we just watched. The tutor noticed that his student had something on her mind. We always have to be mindful that our students have lives outside of the hour and a half that we spend tutoring them. And we have to really pay attention to the stresses that are going on in their lives. He was very smart to refocus the lesson to make use of that information. Did the student's demeanor change during the process? I would say it did. She became much less nervous and much more confident. When faced with the thought of having to write her own story, she didn't want to do it. But when someone else was going to write it for her and then help her edit it for her, she was much more comfortable. How did the tutor guide her in making corrections? He asked her, is there anything you'd like to change? Is there something you'd like to change about this word? It was very encouraging. It wasn't really pointing out mistakes. It was asking her to look at them and say, is there something here you would like to make a difference? And how could you create an expanded lesson from this story? Well, there's several things you can do. You can create a lesson around the grammatical errors. You can make a writing lesson to expand the story with different adjectives, etc. How did Johnny do? What did Johnny do on his day home? There's many things you can do with this story.
So as we talk about the LEA, it can be used to teach lots of different skills. We might look for words in the story that have a particular vowel sound or letter combination. We might look for words with prefixes and suffixes that and their meanings, look for rhyming words, find harder words to study or words that are above the student's current reading level. If there are grammar errors, like Sarah said, we could also fix those. You could do a follow-up activity, maybe involving the punctuation, or even a more advanced student, you might change the story from present to future. So there's lots of different things that you can do with a story.
So this brings us, believe it or not, to the end of another topic. Let's review some key points. Who dictates the story? Becky?
No, it would be the student.
Aha! And what are the steps for using this teaching approach?
You have to identify the topic, write the story, read it to the student, make any corrections that they want, and then get the student to read it. And finally, identify the skills that you want to work on.
And what's most important to remember when you're writing this story?
You need to write the story exactly the way they tell it. You need to spell things correctly, but don't correct the grammar at this time. It's their story. You just need to do it the way it works best for the two of you.
Absolutely.
It's a fun thing to do.